Mr. Shenton, hello.
Hi Ben, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I live for this awkward few seconds where I pretend that we've not been speaking off camera and then we catch up and ask how it's going. How's the weather where you are? How are you keeping? How's business? But yeah, I'm really good, mate, as you well know. How are you?
Good, yeah, I'm all right, thank you. Third week in business now, so I'm starting to get into it that I can wear a jumper whenever I want, and it's the nice things that come with that. But I'm speaking to a lot of nice people, and yeah, looking forward to it. It's everything that I thought it was going to be, but it's 10 times harder. But it's a nice harder. I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, mate, good. Well, now that you're settling into being able to wear your own hoodie, I look forward to that beard getting progressively more scruffy over the next 6 months. And believe me, mate, it will happen. But
Yeah.
I'm really pleased that you sort of opened up with an insight into your business and how things have been tough and challenging. Because I think sometimes we can kind of put our rose tinted glasses on when we get success, and it's important that people have an authentic insight to the fact that when things are great, they're absolutely fucking amazing. But sometimes that doesn't come without the hardship and putting in the groundwork to sort of earn that right to be successful. And you're right, it's not always easy. But Joe, one thing I wanted to drill in today, obviously on this short recording, is the fact that you have just got your first listing. So you obviously said
Yes.
things haven't been as easy as maybe what you was hoping or what you was thinking, but you're on the tools now, you're living it, you're breathing it, you're doing it, you've had some success, you're starting to see that sunshine come through. Tell me a little bit about where this first listing came from and why it wasn't as easy as maybe what you thought it might have been to secure. I'd be interested to unpack that.
So yeah, so this particular house is come straight from direct mail from the Magic Letter. I sent out I think about 120 Magic Letters, and I've had a reasonable response. I think I've got about 30 people who've called me, so I've got
Oh wow,
30
that's good.
houses I can potentially nurture. A few that I've booked in, and a few that are thinking about it. But this one, they like the fact that I sent them a nice coloured envelope and I'd put some postage on it. They thought I made a better effort, so they thought, well, we'll give him a call and see what he's about. It was a really blank letter with no letterhead on, no nothing, really mysterious for that reason. But when I went out to them, I told them that obviously a brand new in business, and they really was really bought into what I was looking to do for the property. I think there's a lot of things that I could improve, and we shared the same sort of ideas because they were frustrated with some of the images, and they didn't like the Matterport tour. So we've agreed to do a proper video and some higher end photography with some nice shots from above. And I think that'll do the trick, to be honest. It's priced okay. So yeah, really exciting. Looking at doing the photographs next week, all being well.
Right, incredible. Let's just drill down on that first bit of the conversation. So you mentioned that you was dead honest with them. You told them you was a new business. You've got no choice really, because when you do set up for yourself, they'll say, "Oh,
Yeah,
I've not seen your face or your name floating around before. What's your story?" So I think a lot of people get a little bit anxious over that conversation, like, "Oh,
yeah.
if I've got no past, trading history or whatever, is it going to be difficult for me to overcome that in the living room?" Can you just share a little bit about how that conversation went? So the client says, "Joe, I've not seen you before. What's the story? Like, how did that dialogue go, and how did they respond to the fact that you was a new business?"
So I was really honest in the fact that I said, yes, I am. I am a brand new business. It is my second week, as it was, but I've been in the industry for nearly 10 years. I was a manager in my last job, just to make you feel a little bit, better. The fact that I'm not just deciding to open my doors one day and I've written to a few strangers. So I was just honest with them, and we've got on really well. It turns out that they actually live where I live now, in which is Leek. So we chat a little about local area that they've moved from house to house in Leek, and then they've gone to where they are now, which is a little village, a little bit further away. And I said that so my mum doesn't live too far away, and just made them feel as if I know the area, which I do, to be fair, but just made them feel at ease and comfortable. Although I'm new, I'm not new to the game, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Mate, that's a phenomenal way to go about it. And that's the first thing that I always say. So when I say people give me that objection, I mean when agents say to me, will this be a potential objection when they get into the living room? I always say
Yeah,
you've got to bear in mind that yes, your business might have just launched, but you've not just been born. You've got clients that you've
yeah,
had before that, you've got success. Doesn't matter what the banner was or what the area was, you've got people that you've helped overcome the very challenge that they're facing. So they're not just buying into a day one business, they're buying into Joe that's been selling houses successfully for a decade and knows the
yeah,
area incredibly well. So I think that's a brilliant way to kind of reinforce reinforce that credibility. And when you can create those local ties, it's definitely no bad thing. Tell me, mate, how was the whole experience of valuing a property and dealing with a client and going for a close, knowing that you're about to make thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds if you can get this sold, versus being employed for a few percent bonus if you're lucky when it sells? Like, what was the mindset going into it? How was the conversation? Was you noticing differences in yourself in terms of how you pitch and present, or how your mindset and your nerves were? Or was it very comparable to what you've been doing for the last decade? Was it just another day in the office? I'd be keen to know what your experience was like.
Yeah, it was a little bit day in the office style initially, leading up to. I always get a little bit, nervous slash excited before going to any house. It could be my neighbour's house, but
Yeah.
I always have that little bit of, apprehension, but excitedness, I'd say. And this was no different. But I must admit, when we were chatting to them, because they actually said, "Oh, this is the contract I've got with the current agent. Would you mind just reading through it and just seeing what my tie-in period is?" So I read through it, and obviously, and it says straight away what the fee is. So I'm like, well, they're not averse to paying, decent money. So then I was working out, God, how much can that be for me then? So when eventually we were looking in the garden, they said, "Oh, you just go around there and have a little look." But I think we're going to go ahead. Yeah, we're pretty happy with what you said. They
Oh,
couldn't see
brilliant.
me, and I was like,
Yeah, a little victory dance behind the garage.
yeah,
Good lad.
yeah. I can't deny it. So yeah, it's exciting.
Mate, that's amazing. And I think I don't know, mate. I guess that we're all programmed different, but just thinking of how I operate as a person, like, forget agency, like if it was something else, like just knowing that I'm helping like an independent business, a startup, someone at the start of the journey,
Yeah,
and giving them my business is like helping them along the way. I think that'll probably be an incentive for me to want to do business with them rather than
yeah.
like a deterrent as to why I might not. But mate, that's absolutely incredible. So tell me, what was the process like from that initial letter going out to the client saying, "Do you know what, Joe, the business is yours, let's crack on"? In terms of timelines, how long did it take to get from stranger to client?
Good question. I sent the letters out, I think, towards the end of my first week, and I agreed to go. I think they called me at the start of the second week, so maybe the Monday, and I agreed to go on Friday. And then uh, after 5:30, they sent me a screenshot that they'd given the notice to the agent, and they said we're happy to go ahead. So
Victory dance
it
part
was
two.
yeah, again, yeah, yeah, exactly. So it was about five. Well, probably a week, I'd say, from that to that. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, they've been on
Amazing.
since sort of at the end of October, November. So whether or not an agent's not tried to, well, it's not sent any letters before, or they didn't like the approach from some of the others, I don't know. But they liked me, so yeah, I like them for that reason.
I was just gonna say there, Joe. What was the buy-in? Because you said that you quite liked that, you as a startup business, and you mentioned about the marketing plan that you've put together. So what is it that clinched the deal? Do you think it was that they're dealing with an owner operator? Was it that you've put like a robust strategy in place in terms of you've gone in there with a clear idea about, okay, we're going to change A, B, and C, and we're going to aim for X, Y, and Z? What was it that's caused them to
It
take?
was, I think it was that what you just said there. The clear mindset of what isn't working, which funny enough they share the same opinion as me, and the fact that I said that it's a much personal business. I'm not looking to have the market share in the area. I'm looking to only deal with a select number of properties at one time to give that one-on-one service, because the agent at the moment isn't returning the calls. They're having to call them for feedback. They're having to call them for, how's it going? Just general market updates. And I've just sort of said that, if this house doesn't sell, I won't get paid. So, you best believe I'll be chasing it. I'll be getting other stats so we know what we can change if we need to. But no, I think they really just like the fact that it could be a lot more personal for them, because they've been there 20 years. So they want to, I think they like to possibly have the handheld a little bit. And I'm obviously prepared to do that for them, which I think that was the reason, really.
Well, that is a massive benefit, and I think again that's something that we can overlook sometimes. That hand holding and that kind of one on one. You've got
Yeah.
one solo case manager. You're not being passed from pillar to post. There's no lack of accountability because here's my mobile number. You're dealing with me. I think a lot of people, regardless of their age and how long they've been there, can kind of buy into that as a massive value added proposition. I always think, and this was kind of like where the penny clicked for me, because I know obviously you've not done this, but when I first started with eXp, that whole thing about you realize, okay, this is me, it's my name above the door. If I close this, it's me that's getting, the decent commission. I really want to get the instruction. I need to get out the traps. Because I was a little bit nervous in the early stages. I used to not make a focus of it, but I used to mention, oh, eXp, we're a global business. We've got this many thousands of agents all over the country. We're rapidly expanding. And it's just jargon that people don't want to hear. Ultimately, what they
Yeah,
want to know is, okay, I'm buying into you, Ben or Joe. What can you do for me? And when I kind of switched it from making the wrong assumption that scale equaled credibility, and I started focusing more on the relationships, and I could say to somebody, okay, Mrs. Smith, I only deal with 5 clients at a time or whatever the number might be. That means if I take your property onto the market, your home literally represents 20% of my entire business. Like, how much more
yeah,
committed and focused am I going to be to get that result? And people kind of equate like that exclusivity and having a bigger portion of your time with value. Do you know what I mean? Versus being like a random number on a spreadsheet where it's
yeah,
okay if we don't sell your house, because if we don't, we've got 500 properties very similar in the same area that we will sell. So mate, that's massive. And before we wrap up on this, Joe, I know that we're on a bit of a ticking time bomb because you mentioned that you've got 2 Larry dogs outside that are going to flare up anytime. So while we've got peace and quiet, if you wouldn't mind sharing, in terms of pounds and pence, if and when you sell that property, what does that mean in terms of commission for you?
So I've quoted them 1%. So it's coming on at it was on with the current agent at 385, but we've agreed to come down by 10k. So 375. So it'd be just shy of well, about 4 grand with the VAT. So yeah, just under 4 grand, I'd say, once the rest is taken off. So yeah, it's a massive chunk. It's a couple of months' salary for me at my previous job. So
No,
crazy money.
that's I know it when you look at the commercials, because you can, when you've come from like a corporate world or working in a faster paced environment, like one listing doesn't feel like a lot, but then when you're looking at the pounds and pence and what that means if and when you sell that in pounds,
Yeah,
and it's a massive difference. So Joe, I'm over the moon, mate. Very well deserved. I know that it wasn't instant for you. It wasn't a case of, hey guys, I'm in business, and the phone started ringing and the valuation started flowing. I know you're still very much in that phase of growth where you're banging the doors and you're working and sending
yeah,
letters and fighting for every instruction. So it's great to see that you've got a bit of success. And if you can do it once, you can do it 10 times. If you can do it 10 times, you can do it 100 times. So I've got every confidence that you'll build from it, mate. And brilliant to see.
yeah. Thank you, Ben. Cheers.
Good man.
Okay, thank you.